This is an update video from my previous Crayon Savefile video. A few things have changed with the system, mostly just enhancements and build system stuff, but I just want to go through it because there's a few things that might not be obvious at first. First thing I want to mention is you would have possibly remember that in the demos before, we had an extra structs.h file, which is now missing. Instead, that's been replaced with my sfvars.c and .h. If you're wondering why we do this, it's because you having non-extern variables defined in your headers gets a bit messy with including in multiple different files. So I decided to just go the extern route and define them in a C file. So this produces a normal object file, and that means you can just include it in all places and it will still refer to these exact vars here rather than making copies and getting mixed up. Second thing I want to go through is how to install sconstruct itself. I made a mistake last time and I said do apt-get install sconstruct directly. That is not the best way. It turns out the version I was using was based off of Python 2 and was an older version of sconstruct. I've been told by the maintainers themselves that you should use the Python 3 pip3 stuff and install it through pip3 directly. That way you'll get the most up-to-date version of sconstruct. As we can see here, yep, so version 4.0.1 at the moment is the latest version. Second, all the makefiles in the old system, in last version, are gone. So there was a few makefiles in the demos. The way it used to work is you had a sconstruct file for the PC version, and then there was a makefile that would just build the Dreamcast version and just dump all the files in here. Now the sconstruct file handles both, just pretty similarly to how the lib sconstruct file worked, where you just say the platforms and the debug, and it will dump the stuff correctly in here. And the final program appears in here. So it works nicely like that. A few things have changed with how these are called now. So before, let's say we wanted to go scons platform equals Dreamcast, we'll get an error. It says invalid option detected platform. So we can see what we need to put in instead. If we do help. Okay, so there's debug, which is just a simple boolean. It's either 0 or 1. And in this case we didn't define it, so it was none. Platforms is what it's now called. There was a few issues with using platform before because that's an internal variable. For my system, it's POSIX, and that was causing issues when constructing the environments. So I just changed it to platforms plural instead, and that fixes the issue. So to do that, we do platforms, and before you could either go PC, you could go Dreamcast, or you could do all. Now you can actually chain multiple together, so let's say it's a future version, there's like 5 different platforms, but you only want to build PC and Dreamcast. Then you do PC, Dreamcast, and then that would build just those versions. And the other 3 different platforms wouldn't get built, you don't have to worry about them if you don't have the environment set up or whatever. Another cool thing I did here is that this will automatically rebuild the library if it hasn't been built or if it's out of date. So let's go over here and we'll just do a clean just to show it. Cool. So the library is now cleaned out. We'll now run it again, and as you see, it's going to do a lot more because there's a rebuild the library. There and there. Yeah, so it's easy, don't need to worry about that. Also a neat thing, if you type scones just by itself, you'll see it didn't give an error even though we didn't specify platforms and we didn't specify clear. That's because there's an extra file that the struct looks for. I'll navigate back to the demo. So this file over here is detected by the struct file, and depending on what it says will determine the arguments we pass in here. The default arguments, that is. So we look here, and we can see it says platforms to 0, and we can say debug to 1 as well. And if we recompile that, it's now going to recompile everything in debug mode. Nice. So basically the way it works is if you don't pass in any arguments, it will default to this. If you pass in any arguments at all, it will just use whatever you typed up here. It won't even use any of this at all. So it's really neat like that. Also, if you wanted to, for whatever reason, you could do PC, all, and that would be the same as doing platforms all. What's next? A new function has been introduced. You can now delete your save file in-game if you want to. It works just the way you'd think, except you have to specify a save device ID, because, say for example, let's take Sonic Adventure 2, you've got multiple save files, even multiple save files within the same memory card. Obviously, with the Crayon way, you'd have a current save file selected, but you might want to delete some other save file. So this way you can just specify the ID of it and it will attempt to delete that one instead. Keep in mind, if the ID is equal to your current ID that's set in there, then it will, if it deletes the file, it won't update the save device ID from your struct. So you'll need to check that again after the delete and reset it to a valid memory card if it isn't already. A few other functions here were slightly renamed. Off the top of my head, I can't remember which ones, but they're all very similar to what they used to be. So I think, for example, this one might have been renamed. Oh, this one definitely was. So I put in the set just to make it clear because it was like Crayon Savefile base path or something. So now it's just a bit more obvious what it's actually doing. I could also show you these, but these are just the under the hood struct files. You got the demo struct and you got the library struct, and they both call these things in order to construct the environments and be able to build correctly. I think that's about it. Let me just check my list to see if I forgot anything. One other thing I did forget to mention. So there are a few variables in, mostly the ones that you need to look at is inside of the actual demo struct file. Thank you, Adobe. Thanks for the delayed opening. Not like I'm trying to record anything. Anyway, so in this one there are a few variables that you might want to change. For example, the directory of the ip.bin. For all the demos, there's an ip.bin in the exact same folder, so you just do it that way. You'll possibly need to change lib folder if you have your demo in a completely different place relative to the folder. So this is just going 2 folders up and then into libcrayon save file. Also, the program's name itself. This is just going to be Crayon save file demo v1, v2, or v3, since that's what the folder names are. This just gets the folder name. So name this whatever you want. So you could call it Jerry, and your program will be called Jerry. Beyond that, there are ways to add in custom variables to your program. So let's say you want to make a new C flag. And it's e.append unique. think I'm doing that slightly wrong. How did I do it before? Okay, yeah, they got it here. So this is how you add on extra variables if you want. CPP defines is for the -d stuff. C flags is for stuff like, I think it's compiler flags. I've got C flags here somewhere. CC flags is compiler flags. CPP flags is for the actual C GCC stuff. Yeah. And also, I'm not sure if this was here last time, but this is a flag that will enable color output when using more modern GCCs. It's a version that was introduced in GCC version 4.9.0. So if you're using the current chaos at the time of recording, which is 9.3.0, then this flag will be enabled. If you're still using 4.7.3 like I am on this computer, then this flag won't be added and you won't get color. If you add the flag in on older systems, it just gives an error, so that's why it's got this if statement here. Cool. I think that's everything I wanted to say there. Nothing else here. Ground Savefile base is the exact same as libfolder. Libfolder's gone, sorry. The hash slash is kind of similar to dot slash, but a bit different. Don't worry about that. You don't have a need to change this at all. Yeah, okay, I mentioned everything on my list. Very good. So, the only things this is really going to happen with the library from this point, potential future platform ports, as I mentioned, by even myself or others if they choose to do so. Also, I want to add more save devices for PC. Currently, it's only one save device, just like last time, but I'd like to get it up to 8 eventually. I just need to do that sometime. The library doesn't support hot swapping properly. Not properly. If you try to take out a memory card and put a new one in, then it will still contain, like, there's no callback functions. So you need to recheck that everything is okay. Which I believe is, where's the function? Yeah, so you'd call this if you had some other code that detected a save device change, which is the equivalent of taking out a memory card in Dreamcast. If you detect that, then just call this function and it's easy done. But yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching.